Hello, Mr. Bond. Welcome to another episode of Blasphemers Bible with the usual crew. And we are on Psalm 57. And do we have any opening comments on this?
No, I got nothing special on this.
Oh, yes, you do.
On this?
Yes, you
No.
you do. You do.
But
Lawrence called me yesterday with all the enthusiasm of a child who had just scored a home run in his little league team.
That is pretty accurate as to what happened. No, I was very happy about it. It had been about a decade since the Jehovah's Witnesses came over, and they finally came over, and I was not missing an opportunity to just have a good time. And this was while I was working on my Matthew commentary, ironically, that they came over. So we had a lot of stuff to talk about. They were, I mean, their whole shtick is like, the end is nigh, right? So we're trying to save as many people as possible. But when we got into talking about, for example, the morality of God, especially, I say this to, well, maybe not all Christians, but most Christians at least, I say to them that I think that they are better than their God. Their own morality
Agreed.
is far superior to the God of the Bible. And obviously they were like, no, there's no way that's possibly true. And then I started pointing out ways in which the deity described in the Bible is shitty, how he's a fucking asshole. So I did recommend that they go to my channel. I don't think they will though. And I'm not shocked by that, but I figured I'd try. They gave me.
But you should.
Right, yeah, you should. You, the people, should. So
No.
they do this thing where, like, if they are going to the house of an immigrant, they try to send out people who know the native language of that household. So like initially they were speaking Russian, but like it was clearly a second language for them. It was pretty good, but eventually we just had the conversation in English. They gave me this little card where it essentially says that on the front it says Jehovah's Witnesses, and then it says learn more about the Bible. Then it quotes Matthew 5:3. And
The Bible?
Yeah.
That's not the Bible.
They were like, well, if you ever
don't argue with it.
They said to me, like, if I ever want to learn more about the Bible, I should go to jw.org. And I'm like, this is something I told Aaron yesterday. Like, that would give me enough brain damage where I forget stuff about the Bible.
You would actually know less about the Bible if you were to
right.
do that.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
if not the brain damage from the misinformation itself, the subsequent frustration and how much you would bang your head against the decks, very likely to cause brain damage.
Well, so Lawrence is telling them, if you want to learn more about the Bible, go to my channel,
my website.
Because I will know less about the Bible if I go to yours, because your website knows less about the Bible than I do.
Right. Yeah. 100%. And the thing is, like, I usually try not to be as cocky about my Bible knowledge, but we're comparing like because I may, on one hand, like, I still try not to call myself a scholar really, but compared to run-of-the-mill,
you are definitely
evangelical or not, Jehovah's Witnesses, like randos trying to read and understand the Bible, compared to them, I'm miles ahead, and I'm not gonna beat around the bush when it comes to that. The thing is, like, a long time ago, two different Jehovah's Witnesses, not these two specifically, but probably from the same group, they were giving out these little booklets. One of them tried to prove the existence of God, which, by the way, every single point that they bring up it's already on the Pratt list, right? So There, like, I don't want to like make content on that because it's just stuff we heard on YouTube, 15 years ago. So nothing super special. But this one, to me, is a bit more special. What can the Bible teach us? And I've had this for a while, but they have inspired me to go back and actually do like a response series to this.
That would be interesting. I have to say, if you're gonna read Jehovah's Witness stuff, you need to give a warning in advance that people need to get oven mitts because there will be face palming and it will hurt. Oven mitts
protection.
are safety gear. Number one.
Yeah.
Number
You have
two.
to scroll. Sorry.
I actually want to
Like,
go back and commend you for something you did very well. We are here on the internet, being internet atheists. And internet atheists deal with internet Christians. And internet Christians are often stupid and abrasive and ignorant and everything else. And they're often assholes. Not always, but there's a fair number of them. But in the real world, I have known many excellent Christians. And I think the line, which I've used myself as well, you are better than your God.
Yep.
Is an excellent way to reach out to people because, one, it's true, almost certainly, especially if you know them and know them to be a half decent person. Two, it completely disarms the script they are working on, especially in the case of Jehovah's Witnesses, but in all Christian cases, they are expecting you to oppose them. They might even expect you to criticize God's atrocities, but they are not expecting you. They see themselves as on that side. They have to defend that. The minute you say you are better than your God, suddenly that connection is broken. Their morality and God's morality become separate things in the discussion. And it's very important because if you can't make that distinction, you can't talk about it realistically. People are far too invested and they're already trained to take criticisms of God as a personal criticism and insult and to react in specific scripted ways. You broke the script. And that's an excellent way to do it.
Isaac, you were going to say something about that?
I was just going to say, with a lot of times with Jehovah's Witnesses, like posting online on Quora, you always have to scroll till the end to see the jw.org or whatever link. They don't put a disclaimer at the beginning. But
Alira the Free sent 50 RN Raw gift memberships.
So
there we go. We're off and running. Thank you very much. And then Shut Up Matt says, Lawrence, do you agree RN is to the atheist community as Undertaker is to wrestling? Beard, rides bikes, tall, from Texas, keeps us amateurs on track.
I would say yes, except unfortunately the Undertaker is a conservative in real life. I'll say this. Yes, Arn is like the Undertaker, but Arn is not like Mark Calloway. So let's put it that way.
Thank you. And then Terrence Clark adds $5 and says, I asked JW about blood transfusion, and he said it was up to the conscience of the individual witness. The conscience of the individual witness. So he lied to avoid a tough subject, basically.
On that, I was actually, I wanted some clarification from the Jehovah's Witnesses about what they believed about the 144,000 in Revelation. Because the way it's presented in Revelation, if you actually read through it, is that the 144,000, the 12,000 from each tribe, they are the ones who are essentially like the elite. Like they are the super special people that are reserved for heaven.
Oh my goodness, they haven't defiled themselves with women, which means they're either virgins or homosexuals. So Isaac, you could be one of them.
No, it was I asked them about that because I always heard the claim that they just thought that there were 144,000 seats in heaven. Now they do believe it literally, but they were like that's essentially a governing, they called it a governing body for heaven while we get a new heaven on earth. So other people can make it into the new heaven, or the new earth, but
Right.
not into that super special group of people in heaven. And I also made sure that they knew that unless they were Jews, they couldn't get those seats because they're 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes. They're of the sons of Israel. So I needed them to know that they definitely can't be part of that 144,000.
And then Codename Shmoo offers $20. Thank you very much. It says, I have often said, you are smarter than this when arguing with this type of person. It disarms their righteous indignation. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
But I will say,
I have heard people tell me that if they thought that God told them to kill their children, they would murder their children. If a voice in their head that
we
they
had
took
one on
to
the
be
stream.
God.
We did.
Yeah.
And then I've met Christians who were, when asked that question, they responded with, I would sooner believe I was crazy than that. So they checked themselves into a mental institution.
As you should. That's
Right,
the correct answer to that question.
Yeah.
But I also got one that was a complete cop-out where somebody told me God wouldn't say that.
Right. They always say that. They always say God wouldn't say that.
Oh,
But
yeah.
then you got to press them on it because it's a hypothetical, bozo. Fucking get on track. Like,
Yeah.
Also, he literally fucking did.
Also, yes.
It's canon. It's canon.
Just because he
It's in the book. It's
interrupted
kind of a big
the sacrifice to say JK doesn't change it.
Doesn't change the morality of the choice, no. And that is the big thing. Also, that kid's traumatized as fuck.
Yeah, I wonder
Like-
if there's a connection between being a literalist, biblical literalist, and not being able to understand metaphor. And
Yes.
There is.
Yes.
I don't know what
And,
exactly is
like,
the connection, but there is.
and what
Yes, I've
You're
seen
trained to
some
hear it.
studies.
It's not a lack of intellectual capacity. You're
I
trained
did
to
a
hear
debate
it.
against Inspiring Philosophy where he changed the topic of the debate in mid-course. The debate was, is Christianity dangerous? And the word dangerous defined as the potential to do harm, right? Not necessarily that it always does, but it has the potential to do harm. And so I go down the list of all these things where Christianity has demonstrated that it will do harm. But then he gets up there and starts arguing for intrinsic religiosity, not specifically Christianity. So it's a completely different topic. He could, if it's intrinsic religiosity, then we could be talking about Islam for all we care, right? It's just, if everybody in a given community shares the same religious belief intrinsically, and it's never challenged or questioned, then maybe it's not going to be dangerous. But there's still the potential there. And as I said, I found 2 studies that show that even in cases of intrinsic religiosity, if you hold to these, if you're raised to this these belief in scriptures and everything, then the resulting studies showed that children raised in this type of environment were unable to distinguish reality from fantasy in story format. So they think that the stories being read to them really happened.
And because they're literally explicitly taught to believe that. I do
Yep.
not lack the intellectual capacity to understand metaphor. I think we can all agree on that. But I
Yeah.
was trained. Yeah.
yeah, they're just not
I
good
am
with,
many
like,
things. Stupid is not
hypotheticals.
among them.
Yeah.
But genuinely, they're trained. The mind is trained to shy at that fence like a skittish horse. It's genuinely entrenched in you. You have to pick it out from your earliest consciousness, and that is a fucking job. Yeah,
So,
it's a mind fuck and a half.
So Psalm 57, I will go ahead and jump in there. Be merciful to me, O God, be merciful to me. For in you my soul takes refuge. In the shadow of your wings I take refuge. Until the destroying storms pass by, I cry to God Most High, to God who fulfills his purpose for me. He will send from heaven to save me. He will put to shame those who trample on me. Selah. God will send forth his steadfast love and his faithfulness. I lie down among lions that greedily devour human prey. Their teeth are spears and arrows, their tongues sharp words. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be over all the earth. They set a net for my steps. My soul was bowed down. They dug a pit in my path, but they have fallen into it themselves, Selah. My heart is steadfast, O God. My heart is steadfast. I will sing and make melody. Awake, my soul. Awake, O harp and lyre. I will awake the dawn. I will give thanks to you, O Lord, among the peoples. I will sing praises to you among the nations. For your steadfast love is as high as the heavens. Your faithfulness extends to the clouds. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be all over the earth.
So, I mean, we can clearly see the parallelism in this verse. Or sorry, not in this verse.
Why
in this
does it
psalm.
feel like God is jizzing on the globe?
He is. He is. All day, every day. We just got a really big
Ew.
thunderstorm last week. It was hot for some reason. Anyways, so
I want a restraining order.
yeah. So, like, obviously, we're still talking about the same group of enemies that are going after the psalmist. So he's like seeking protection, and they're described in a lot of the similar ways, like lions, but also kind of what was there in verse 4? Their tongues sharp swords, just like their words, I think, have been likened to swords in the past. And in verse 6, obviously they set, they set a net, they dig a pit. These are common metaphors that we see, but they'll eventually lead to their own destruction. And a few things I did want to point out, and this is something we had before as well, at least a couple times. In the shadow of your wings, I will take refuge until the destroying storms pass. Now, I think in one of the Psalms last week, we talked about the clamor of the enemies as being like a tempest. So it could be using the same metaphor there. But the shadow of your wings is, again, it could refer to the actual wings of the cherubim on the ark, of the covenant, that is. And then
There is an element of metaphor there, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So I also wanted to point out the so it would apply to both verses 5 and 11, but also to some extent 10 and 3, because those are pretty similar verses. The be exalted, O God, above the heavens. Let your glory be all over the earth. So you can kind of see how it's going like up vertically and then like horizontally, right? Like over all the earth, but also in the heavens. And then your steadfast love is as high as the heavens, same thing. And your faithful, it says it extends to the clouds. But obviously, we're still talking about the heavens there. But it's to me, this kind of stuff is always interesting because it gives an idea of, to me, it gives some idea of their cosmic geography. And it's not like this stuff specifically isn't super detailed, right? It just gives like the small hints, and it's not even stuff that we would disagree with. Like, obviously, like the earth is, from our perspective, the earth is like this whole, from our perspective, from our perspective, the earth would be a horizontal plane. From our perspective, before any flat earthers get crazy in there, I see you. Peter. Anyways,
You think flat earthers understand perspective?
I know that they don't. But
Well, they use the word all the time. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like when
yeah, but before
conservative
anyone
Christians
goes
use the word
off,
love. It's branding. They don't know what it means.
right? Yeah. So before they go off the rails, there, I have to say that multiple times, and then the heavens, the sky is up. But it is, to me, it is interesting they're using heavens and clouds, because like obviously that, like, the clouds are in the heavens, like I said, it's not super specific, but these are also images describing the abode of God. And the reason that I point that out is because in both verses 5 and 11, it also uses the word kavod for glory, and that was often imagined as being within the clouds, even when the cloud was on earth, uh, like in the pillar of cloud, right? In Exodus, that would be described
There's some
as
quite
God's kavod, his glory.
brilliant visual effects can be created by clouds, especially low-lying clouds. The sun scattering through a mist that seems to enshroud you in nebulous light. That's a very beautiful image, and I could totally see someone taking a spiritual angle on that. It's the idea that the source is shrouded and it's just vaguely glorious all over.
The way it
Sunsets tell
reflects,
you these
the
things. It's
way it
beautiful.
reflects light is kind of mystical.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
sure,
it's cool as fuck.
it looks nice.
And the sunlight, but I mean, I think we shouldn't really worry too much about flat earthers, even if you are delusional enough to insist that the Bible is a science book. This is literally the songbook portion. If you cannot use metaphor in song, what are you doing?
Using
So you're saying you
Literal.
can't literally buy a Stairway to Heaven?
I tried once. It was pretty expensive.
The Andrew Frost, 2834, says, haven't there been actual red rums where they claimed God told them to do it?
Several.
Red
I
Rums?
can't think of a specific example. There have been plenty of people who killed their children to
Yes.
save them from God or to save them from the devil.
Or because they thought their children were the devil, or some other delusion that,
Andrea
could
Yates
be
drowned
construed in
all
that
5
way.
of her kids to save them from Satan. Somebody else had her kids lay down on the ground in the driveway, and she tried to stave their heads in one by one with a rock.
On,
Oh
remind
my
me,
God.
where are you going Saturday? It's near some place. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm not going to. I'm going through Waco. I'm not stopping. at
Yeah,
Waco.
no, close too.
No, it's a
Yeah.
drive-by. You're doing a drive-by.
Yeah. On's going to do a drive-by
Peter,
in
there's a
Waco.
question.
Bit late.
Yeah, there's a question on cognitive dissonance, Peter. I want you to tag that one. I want to answer it. Anyway, please continue.
I mean, I didn't have much more to say on that verse, other than we still see the connection of Yahweh's existence as a storm god.
Per
Yeah.
Lilith's
Just a
request,
tiny little.
Crint, I don't know how to pronounce that, says, how do religious people deal with cognitive dissonance? My friend wouldn't shake a girl's hand, then later smoked weed. How is that not a contradiction?
It's admittedly, the mental and emotional load placed on you by following all of these rules and these rules around rules is exhausting. It keeps you from thinking for yourself, but it's also painful. And if you're clever and devoted, the emotional pain and frustration of that cognitive dissonance, and you take it to a mentor or someone who's supposed to tell you, what is this? How do I deal with this? They will tell you that is part of your devotion and the presence of God. It feels
So-
like God is there in the confusion and disconnect because your brain doesn't know what to do with it. And it's a great place to put him.
I love meeting up with those people who say that that homosexuality is an abomination according to Leviticus, but they're also eating mud bug gumbo and covered in tattoos.
And wearing a polyester cotton blend. You
Yep.
know? It's I get the hypocrisy, and I get that they're like they're always more touchy about sexual stuff. And granted, the sexual stuff, the other things that are banned in that, a lot of it is really fucked up. Like, don't fuck your sister. Yeah, thanks. Didn't need that one.
Yeah, we
Good.
needed a rule book
But
to tell us not to eat roadkill.
you
And
know
yet
what?
somehow
There's
Christian nationalists hired RFK to head up our Department of Health.
he is
He's
roadkill.
not scared of bugs.
No, because he is one
As-
parasitic
He
brain worm.
literally said it on podcast. Like, I'm not scared of germs. I used to snort cocaine off a toilet seat. Whatever. Like,
Ew, that's not a recommendation. Your brain is fried. The other way, I told you about the clever way to deal with cognitive dissonance of, engaging with it emotionally and calling that your relationship with God, and it burns because God is so fantastic. The other way is just avoidance. The mind shies away from certain things because they're painful and you're already exhausted. And frankly, if you've ever been through a hard time in life, you can't deal with everything. You have to sort of be in triage. And so you're always in triage and you're always avoiding certain things because you just can't handle it right now, because you're basically walking around with an open wound and protecting it as a safe and necessary part of your being.
Okay. Tomer, do you have anything?
There is another thing that we have on chat.
I'm not seeing it.
Two,
there.
two
no,
other
not
things.
now, but it's now.
Okay, Illyria the Free sent 50 more RN Raw gift memberships.
Huge.
I think that takes us up to 100
Mhm.
so far today.
Damn, Alera.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the other chat though.
Just above that, the one that Lilith asked for. Oh no,
Wait,
you already did that, right?
Sure that-
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Tomer.
Yes. So, early scholars believe that Psalms 57 was composed of two different texts. Hosfeld and Zenger note that this is favored by the so-called double tradition of 7 through 11, which is 8 through 12, and by the different poetic techniques. And by the different poetic technique in the two parts, as well as their different basic mood, with verses 2 through 5 and 7 being a lament and petition of someone persecuted, and verses 8 through 12 being a lyric praise of Yahweh with concluding petition. Moreover, the expression my soul is used 3 times in verses 2 through 5 and 7, while verses 8 through 9 use my heart or my honor, which could be a sign of different origins. They write, however, that the present psalm can and must be interpreted as a well-structured, coherent unit. Likewise, Tate writes that the unity of the psalm should not be questioned, and no attempt should be made to treat it as 2 psalms. He notes Aufeld's opinion that the repetition of verse 6 and 12 at least points to a redactional unity, and that the psalm is characterized in all its major parts by the use of the, quote, pivot word pattern, end quote, of poetic style. The pattern refers to the use of a word or expression suspended between 2 fairly short colons and modifying both at the same time, in verse 8. Gerstenberger writes that the Thanksgiving section, in verses 8 through 12, would indicate that Psalms 57 was used in a communal situation such as synagogal worship for the suffering person. To prove this assumed setting, he notes the universal dimension of thanksgiving, verses 6, 8 through 12, the heavenly abode of Yahweh, verses 3 and 4, the tendency to hypostatize the grace and loyalty to God, in verses 4, 6, and 11, the general human outlook of verses 5b and 10, and the lack of reference to small group ties. He writes that this individual complaint thus very likely belonged to the religious community of later times, not to the earlier family or clan society. He adds that there may have been a reinterpretation of old primary group complaints in the pre-literary stage of transmission. And regarding the title, 1, to the tune of "Do not destroy," the Masoretic text reads "Al tashchet." This phrase also appears in Psalms 58, 59, and 75. Targum reads, "Concerning the distress in the time when David said, 'Do not destroy.'" Rashi wrote that David called this psalm by this name because he was near death, and he established this psalm saying, "Do not destroy me, O Lord." Kimchi wrote that Psalms 57 through 59 were about David with Saul, and the title of the psalms requests that they will not be destroyed by Saul. Ibn Ezra and Titrani wrote that this refers to a poem which started with Al Tashchet, an interpretation favored by many commentators. Tate writes that a bit of support for this may come from Isaiah 65:8, where "do not destroy" may be a popular saying and possibly a phrase from a vintage song. Tanner writes that Berlin and Zvi Brettler note that the title probably indicates a mini collection, quote unquote. Goldingay suggested that the terms constitutes an exoneration not to destroy the psalm, exhortation not to destroy the psalm, which is designed to stand as a written testimony. And that's it.
Okay, then.
Unless I'm seeing this wrong. I might be seeing this wrong. Do we have another 50 from Alira? Or is that an old one that I'm seeing? Or is that the one?
No.
Oh, this one.
That's what was before.
Okay, I'm seeing it from a few minutes ago because this live chat has a problem catching up. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right. In that case, I will do Psalm 58.
Okay.
To the leader, "Do not destroy." Of David, a Miktam. Do you indeed decree what is right, you gods? Do you judge people fairly? No, in your hearts you devise wrongs. Your hands deal out violence on earth. The wicked go astray from the womb. They err from their birth, speaking lies. They have venom, like the venom of a serpent, like the deaf adder that stops its ear, so that it does not hear the voice of the charmers or of the cunning enchanter. O God, break the teeth in their mouths. Tear out the fangs of the young lions, O Lord. Let them vanish like water that runs away. Like grass, let them be trodden down and wither. Let them be like the snail that dissolves into slime, like the untimely birth that never sees the sun. Sooner than your pots can feel the heat of thorns, whether green or ablaze, may he sweep them away. The righteous will rejoice when they see vengeance done. They will bathe their feet in the blood of the wicked. People will say, "Surely there is a reward for the righteous. Surely there is a God who judges on earth." So, I should, like, first thing I should note is
What in the vampire shit is this?
Listen, I think that's great. I think that's a phenomenal psalm. I think it's just as brutal as I want my historical fictions to be. So the like, you have this whole section of, like, you're comparing them, the wicked, to vicious and dangerous animals, where, like, these things should be killed, basically. And
I suppose I would be hotter with a sword and covered in the blood of mine enemies.
that is true. You should consider doing that. So I should note that the very first thing in verse 1 there, "you gods," right? That's a fun one. Cat, what the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? Okay. Maybe
Your
maybe
cat
what
heard
is
"you
going on?
gods" and was like, "What do you want?"
But yeah, so the word there's is ilim, which
Correct
can be
worship.
gods plural. But I think that this is the same thing as we saw in one of the previous psalms, where they called them like they were like, "Oh, mighty one," right? So this is kind of like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I mean, I
Is
said,
that your dinosaur behind you?
Oh, that's cool looking. That's awesome, actually. Okay.
Oh,
Very,
your mic is muted, but yeah, your dinosaur is awesome.
yeah. But either way, yeah, very, very
Sorry,
sarcastic
I was going to say
comment.
this is the ghost
I
of a
mean,
parrot.
the word, if we go with the Masoretic text pronunciation, it's elim, which means silence or muteness.
Sure, yeah, I've seen it also
but
written as like
but it
silence.
has been amended by several as elim by Hallott and Mowinckel, Krauss and Tate.
Yeah,
NRSV has you gods.
yeah, whole bunch of people amend that. So the I think it is probably Elim because of the sarcasticness that we saw in some of the other psalms. Like obviously they're not. They even answer the question in the second verse. So they're not talking about deities here, but rather people who in their own lives, because of either like vanity or arrogance or whatever it may be, um, just because they're wicked, they deal out violence on earth. They cause a lot of harm.
Oh, it's
And
it just. Oh, okay. Sorry.
well, you'll have a chance, Tomer.
No, because there is an interesting thing in Hermenia, which translates it as it is it really so that in your speech use silence, right? So Hosfeld prefers the silence interpretation. Interesting.
Okay. And I obviously wanted to bring up probably the coolest verse here. Verse 10, they will bathe their feet in the blood of the wicked. Now when I mean, people might have some other ideas on this, but when I first was reading over that, I was like, is this like kind of an imitation of like other cleansing rituals where instead of like, we have like the hospitality and cleansing rituals that include like, washing your feet, right? So like this might be like that turned up to 11, right? So you have the blood of the wicked being used for that cleansing. If anyone's picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You can see that. Man,
when they said they washed Jesus's feet, I didn't think it was like that. Oh, look at your baby. I love watching kitties get love. I want all the kitties. This is the only gods we should be worshiping. House cats. Correct use of worship.
So Tate writes that verse 11b is a very harsh statement, unless the hood is correct. However, the statement, in what sense is it
not
correct?
harsh at
He
all.
argues.
Come
He
on,
says that.
Tomer.
Wait a minute, that's Tate saying, not me. So, however, the statement should be understood as a hyperbolic idiomatic expression which should not be pressed for a literal meaning. The point is that there are harsh judgments on earth which set things right. Let the wicked beware, compare Revelations 18:20. The world is not totally dominated by mighty ones whose sinister ways stem from the evil in their hearts. There is a God who will not indefinitely tolerate the cobra-like ways of those who falsely act like gods. Yes, that's what they said.
Venomous?
Yeah, I guess. And I wanna check. Is this Tanner? Oh, so Tanner notes that the image is harsh but not unique in ancient literature. She notes that there are other biblical texts with similar images, like 1 Kings 22:37 and 38, Psalm 68:23, Isaiah 63 3-6, Ezekiel 39:17-20, as well as ancient Near Eastern texts, such as KTU 1:3-23 and 27-29. Okay, interesting. Okay.
Someone knocked on my door, and I was like, wouldn't it be funny if the Jehovah's Witnesses came to me in the middle of the show? but it was a different type of.
Honestly,
It was a
most
different
of
type of
them aren't.
evangelical.
Yeah, most of them aren't going door to door nearly as much anymore. They're allowed to count their time sitting by carts in the sunshine, which is more pleasant than being screamed at by
Oh yeah,
people.
I've definitely seen those. Yeah.
Okay, so Tate notes that this psalm is most often classified as a lament of the communal type. He notes that Leslie described it as, quote, a congregational lament over tyranny which is suffered by humans, end quote. He writes, however, that Psalms 58 is more like prophetic judgment speech. He writes that the psalm probably stems from the preaching of cult prophets or prophetic-like persons during the festivals, and possibly other times of public worship. He notes that the psalm is in denunciation of the corruption of leaders and judges, and an equally vehement call for their judgment, concluding with an affirmation of the justice of God. He writes that in general, the psalm is probably derived from preaching of cultic prophets in pre-exilic sanctuaries, such as Amos at Bethel, as we see in Amos 7:10-17. Klaus writes that there is no possible way of looking behind the scene of this prayer, and it is unclear if the speaker is a king or a cultic prophet, or that this is an imitation of a prophetic manner of speech. He also writes that the situation is not discernible. Is the scene to be located in the heavenly realm, or are the powers addressed? He notes that Gunkel is of the opinion that the psalm was written rather late, though Klaus notes that there are archaic touches discernible. Gerstenberger writes that the educative intent of Psalms 58 makes it an instruction of the early Jewish community. The ceremony that brought forth such edifying, comforting, hopeful discourse was that of a volunteer or confessional group intent on fighting for its own rights in the face of powerful counterforces and ready to sustain and restore it with Yahweh's help. Separation from the ungodly in its own ranks proved necessary at this point. And Hosfeld comments, quote, Psalms 58 can most probably be assigned to the mixed genre of wisdom song. It is described by Gerstenberger as communal instruction shaped by wisdom thought. The petitioner in Psalm 58, who remains anonymous and offers an evaluation of the event, can certainly be thought of as a theologically experienced speaker. In addition, the content of Psalms 58 is appropriate for the purpose of education, orientation, and confidence building in a community. The two kola in verse 12, both introduced with ach, indeed, can be considered a wisdom summary of the psalm. Peter Kravchak writes, quote, it is possible that Psalm 58 is evidence that the phenomena of post-cultic psalms cannot be comprehended simply through a dichotomy of written and oral. The structure of Psalm 58 allows us to posit a very probable that it originated at someone's desk. The opening address, verses 2-3, and the shift in perspective in verse 4, the presence of sound pairs and onomatopoeia, and the dynamic, forward-moving psalm content make it appropriate as a liturgical communal instruction.
It's onomatopoeia, by the way.
Onomatopoeia. Okay.
Onomatopoeia.
Yeah,
I mean, he uses
you gotta like
onomatopoeia.
rush through the word onomatopoeia.
Onomatopoeia. Okay. Fuck English.
I mean, it's like anyone
It's more Greek and
barely use that
abstraction,
word.
but yeah.
It's like a trivia word. You know it for trivia usually.
And manga.
True.
Well, yeah, if you need to describe the bam splat. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
and,
don't know.
Why
It's
katakana is used for those? Yeah.
Do we have
I'm done, yes.
more?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think Psalm 59, Lilith, is that you then?
Yep.
Indeed, it is indeed. Psalm 59. For the director of music, to the tune of Do Not Destroy of David, Amikam, when Saul had sent men to watch David's house in order to kill him. Which is exactly what you expect from a father-in-law. But I digress. Deliver me from my enemies, O God. Protect me from those who rise up against me. Deliver me from evildoers and save me from bloodthirsty men. Irony. See how they lie in wait for me. Fierce men conspire against me for no offense or sin of mine, O Lord. I have done no wrong, yet they are ready to attack me. Arise to help me. Look on my plight, O Lord God Almighty, the God of Israel. Rouse yourself to punish all the nations. Show no mercy to wicked traitors. They return at evening snarling like dogs and prowl about the city. See what they spew from their mouths. They spew out swords from their lips, and they say, who can hear us? But you, O Lord, laugh at them. You scoff at all those nations. O my strength, I watch for you. O God, you, O God, are my fortress, my loving God. God will go before me and will let me gloat over those who slander me. But do not kill them, O Lord, our shield, or my people will forget. In your might, make them wander about and bring them down for the sins of their mouths, for the words of their lips. Let them be caught in their pride. For the curses and lies they utter, consume them in wrath. Consume them till they are no more. Then it will be known to the ends of the earth that God rules over Jacob. Selah. They return at evening, snarling like dogs, and prowl about the city. They wander about for food and howl, if not satisfied. But I will sing of your strength. In the morning I will sing of your love. For you are my fortress, my refuge in times of trouble. O my strength, I sing praise to you. You, O God, are my fortress, my loving God.
But what have you done for me lately?
True that. It's always jam tomorrow with God, or look what I did before. Which
Yeah,
totally
so-
happened for reals, these guys.
It seems like the reason why, and one of the more specific verses, surprisingly, in this one, is then it will be known to the ends of the earth that God rules over Jacob. Obviously, Jacob is Israel. So the way that this is viewed is it's essentially in a time of war, because not only do we have, especially in verse 5 there, you Lord God of hosts, so like Yahweh of armies, our God of Israel, awake to punish all the nations, spare none of those who treacherously plot evil. So the that in conjunction with something like with a lot of the stuff that we've seen before, especially in the last psalm, we have their words and their mouths being their tongues being like swords, right? This would have been so. This is a very common motif where they call to God as a war god to stop the wicked, and we know that, again, they're talking about the same group, not just because they literally use the wicked here, but they also keep calling back to motifs that we've seen, to other metaphors we've seen. So like when it says that each evening they come back howling like dogs and prowling about the city. Do you remember a few psalms ago when the wicked specifically were going around the city day and night? So stuff like that is always called back to. But the reason I think that this would have been written in some time of war is because not only is he calling them to be essentially destroyed and humiliated. It's in verse 13 there at the end, it says, then it will be known to the ends of the earth that God rules over Jacob, that God rules over Israel. So somebody else has, at least in the psalmist's mind, we can debate about that, someone else controls Israel, but Yahweh is the God of Israel. So they're calling upon Yahweh to essentially take back his land. And just so everyone knows, the ends of the earth here, that phrase is meant to mean like the whole earth. That one is an idiomatic phrase that means the whole earth. If
I
we
can't believe we have to explain this.
no, well, the thing is, because I want to make a distinction between that and like the phrase like the corners of the
Corners,
earth,
yes.
or like when it starts listing off like cardinal directions and stuff. That would be when you split it into like 4 quadrants. That would be parallel to the ancient Near Eastern literature that is speaking about cosmic geography or cosmology. So this one specifically would be like, then everyone will know that God rules over Israel.
Mhm.
Basically, if you don't do justice, you're screwing up your reputation. It's
I mean, the
Yeah.
phrase "the ends of the earth" doesn't really fit with a spherical understanding of the shape of the earth, but you know, it
But
could have
again,
just been
it's
a
an
poetic
idiom.
language that was kept, from an earlier time.
Yeah.
There are
Well,
lots
I'm
of
yeah.
bits of poetic language that would be ridiculous literal.
Right. I'm just saying, like, you could argue that people using such language would, in their head, that's how they viewed the earth, as having ends.
Well,
But it
yeah,
could have just been
obviously.
a layover, a leftover.
Mhm.
That was all I had.
Okay. Psalms 59 is variously described as a prayer, according to Krauss, Goldingay, Tate, and Tanner, or specifically as an individual complaint song, according to Gerstenberger. Gerstenberger writes that the song is embedded in the congregational and national concerns of post-exilic history. He writes that the worship service of some autonomous Israelite clans seems to have been the original setting of this psalm. The personal traces of the prayer are very strong, and the congregational concerns of the Jewish community must have come in secondarily. Care for the individual and the congregation, fear of demonic influences, and awe over against Yahweh, all this can be imagined in early synagogal cult practices. Terrien notes that the use of the name Yahweh in verse 6 is overwhelmed by the numerous times God is invoked as Elohim. He writes that this seems to be an original appellation, rather than the result of an editorial hand. He suggested that the psalmist had emigrated from the north after the fall of Samaria in 72 BCE and served in the Temple of Jerusalem during the last years of the Kingdom of Judah. He writes, however, that the date remains uncertain. Zenger writes that the textual level on which the nations are the enemies probably presumes the situation of the tiny post-exilic community of Judah, which felt itself threatened by the world of the nations in its identity and even its very existence. He writes that common to both levels is that both the individual and the community experience the hostile threats as a war of destruction in which they both feel themselves equally protected in their stronghold Yahweh. And Tate comments, quote, any attempt to locating a precise date or context founds on a lack of information and the complex nature of the psalm. If the psalm is primarily the prayer of a king, it is reasonable to think of a pre-exilic setting during some time of stress and danger. The title puts the psalm in the broad category of Davidic psalms, and the historical note places it in David's career before his accession to power. Kidner argues that the present form of the psalm must be dated after David's assumption of power as king because the speaker refers to my people in verse 12 and the worldwide repercussions of a defeat of the speaker's enemies in verse 14. However, the superscription is best understood as an indication of how the psalm was read at one later stage of its history. It is possible, of course, that the psalm was composed by later scribal psalm writers as they meditated on David and his career. It is more probable, however, that it was an earlier psalm read in such a scribal context as being appropriate for David during his fight from Saul, as recorded in 1 Samuel 19 and 24, regardless of some anachronistic features. That's it.
Songs about things are rarely written by the people who actually did the things. But I just think it's interesting that he didn't want God to kill his enemies because he wanted to watch them suffer, which is very, very godlike of him.
Okay, so we'll move on.
So we're doing Psalm 60, and I believe that's
I'm
you,
reading Psalm
Tomer.
60. For the leader on Shushan Eduth, a michtam of David to be taught. When he fought with Aram Naharaim and Aram Tzoba, and Joab returned and defeated Edom, an army of 12,000 men in the valley of Salt. O God, you have rejected us. You have made a breach in us. You have been angry. Restore us. You have made the land quake. You have torn it open. Mend its fissures, for it is collapsing. You have made your people suffer hardship. You have given us wine that makes us reel. Give those who fear you because of your truth a banner for rallying, Selah, that those whom you love might be rescued. Deliver with your right hand and answer me. God promised in his sanctuary that I would exultingly divide up Shechem and measure the valley of Sukkot. Gilead and Manasseh would be mine, Ephraim my chief stronghold, Judah my scepter. Moab would be my wash basin, and on Edom I would cast my shoe. Acclaim me, O Philistia. Would that I were brought to the bastion, would that I were led to Edom. But you have rejected us, O God. God, you do not march with our armies. Grant us your aid against the foe, for the help of man is worthless. With God we shall triumph, he will trample our foes.
So, two things.
Tomer
So-
bought your old
3
mic.
points. Yeah, I was gonna point out the mic. It wasn't just me. Everyone's face.
Yeah, sorry. Now I noticed that I couldn't hear you. So
Yeah, it was very I don't even know how to describe it.
Your
Like
old
a
mic.
robot who's getting drowned.
sorry. Yeah. No, do you want me to read it again?
No,
Sorry.
no,
It's that old trick of crumpling the paper in the microphone.
Sorry,
to
it's
pretend
just
as if
my.
you don't have a radio connection.
Yeah, we heard it. We heard it. Don't worry, Tomer. We heard everything.
Yeah, no, sorry. My sound thing is old.
Yeah,
I need
it's
to
all
replace
good.
it.
It's all good. Now I did want to point out how it's very interesting to bring in like all the tribes and the lands and kind of show how they are a part of his who he's exalting up with him and who God is destroying, which is a very interesting I guess it's a metaphor. Yeah, it is a metaphor. And I think it's a very interesting one. But I will be right back. So you guys do whatever you have to do.
Clearly, it's time to take over the world.
I mean, I
Okay,
can read
so-
my commentary on this, but still.
I can hear you now. I don't know what the mic was only
uh,
intermittent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sorry,
I
just-
could hear you speaking. It was just like suddenly you would get like a weird noise.
No, it's just my sound. My sound card is old, so it's like 2020, and at certain times it just like stops working, and I need to and I can't hear you, so I need to just reconnect every single time.
I heard everything there clearly. Read the psalm, read the commentary on the psalm.
You want me to read it again?
Yeah. What you,
No,
you-
no.
you-
Oh my God,
heard you
please
the first
decide!
time. We heard you the first time. Oh no.
so you read the psalm and now you need to read the commentary on the psalm, or are we
Yes.
moving?
I can read the commentary on the Psalms if Lawrence is not here.
do that. I
Yeah.
think we'll be fine.
Okay.
I'll make a
so,
face if it gets bad.
Okay, I'll make
you
I'll
might-
make a
yeah.
face.
Okay, so I'll read the Psalm or
can't
read
hear
the
it.
commentary.
The commentary.
Okay, so the genre of Psalm 60 is difficult to ascertain. Gerstenberger describes the psalm as communal complaint with homiletic response, taking the community involved being the Jewish congregation of post-exilic times. He writes that the homiletic discourse is clearly based on older traditions, and attempts to actualize them for the situation of weakness, domination, and exploitation. Krauss wrote that Psalm 60 is a prayer song of the community, and Tate described it as a modified prayer of the communal lament. He writes that the most probable setting reflected in the psalm is that of the time after the fall of Jerusalem in 587 BCE. He writes that the conditions described in the complaint would fit the exilic period, and the reference to Edom accords well with the Israelite animosity toward the Edomites exhibited in a number of passages, as we see in Jeremiah 49, 7-22, Isaiah 63, 1-6, Ezekiel 25, 12-14, Obadiah, etc. He writes that lamentation ceremonies and fast days seem to have been a part of Israelite worship before the fall of Judah, as seen in Jeremiah 36, 9, and afterward in Zechariah 7, 2-7 and 8, 19, and the psalm would have been at home in such ceremonies. Zenger notes that most recent datings of Psalm 60 center on the period between 600 and 586 BCE, with their starting point being the conflict in verses 11-14 between Judah and Edom, which Judah could not bring to a favorable conclusion. He suggests that the primary psalm, verses 8-14, was composed in the late pre-exilic period between Josiah and the conquest of Jerusalem in 587 or 586, and the later pre-exilic royal prayer was expanded into a community liturgy of lament by the addition of verses 3-7, which may have come from an early post-exilic period. Just a second. Sorry.
Everything all right there, Tomer?
Yeah, sorry, just somebody messaged me. Okay, so on the title, which is 1, the Lily of the Covenant, the Masoretic text reads Shoshan Edut, literally Lily of Testimony. Septuagint reads, for those that shall yet be changed, and Targum, concerning the ancient testimony that was between Jacob and Lavan. Traditionals took Shoshan Eduth as either a type of instrument, according to Hameiri, or that it is a song which starts with Shoshan Eduth, according to Ibn Ezra and Ditrani, though Rashi suggested that this psalm concerned the testimony of the Sanhedrin, who were compared to a rose, Shoshan, as it is stated in Song of Songs 7:3, your navel is like a round basin fenced in with roses. Commentators generally take the Lily of the Covenant to be the name of a well-known tune at the time. Gerstenberger notes Movinkel's opinion that lilies were used for oracular purposes in connection with Psalm 60 and 80. He writes, however, that even if verses 8-10 were an oracle, this judgment is hardly tenable. Instead, he writes that it could indicate a tune. Terrian suggested that the word lily may derive from the verb to be bright, and the whole rubric could mean on the light of the law, part of a preliminary editing in the Persian period, which also added the enigmatic to be learned or lesson.
What'd I miss?
I started my commentary.
Okay.
And I have another thing which is very long. I didn't expect it to be very long, about the title in verse 2, which is when he fought Aram Naharaim and Aram Tsoba. So the reference here alludes to 2 Samuel 8:13 and 14, aka 1 Chronicles 18:12 and 13, which describes David's conquest of Edom. Quote, David gained fame when he returned from defeating Edom in the Valley of Salt, 18,000 in all. He stationed garrisons in Edom, he stationed garrisons in all of Edom, and all the Edomites became vassals of David. The Lord gave David victory wherever he went. End quote. Tate writes that the reference to Aram Naharaim, i.e. Mesopotamia, may allude to 2 Samuel 8:3, which seems to refer to David marching to the Euphrates to establish his power. Aram Tsoba refers to a major Aramean state during David's time, located on the eastern slopes of the Anti-Lebanon mountain range in the Bekaa Valley. Several notable discrepancies are already apparent between Psalm 60's title and 2 Samuel 8. 1. The reference seems to be at odds with the psalm's content, which describes military defeat. 2. The psalm describes a situation in which Edom has not yet been completely captured. And 3. Psalm 60 and has 12,000 enemy troops, whereas 2 Samuel 8 has 18,000. And 4, Joab is not mentioned as having defeated the Edomites in 2 Samuel 18. Sorry, in 2 Samuel 8. Rashi suggested that Abishai, Joab's brother, killed 6,000 troops the first time, and Joab slew 12,000 when he returned from battling Aram. Terian suggested that the oral traditions of David's successes were not yet written as part of the Samuel books, and that the superscription, in its own oral stage, belonged to a relatively early date of the Judite monarchy. Tanner writes that the superscription may serve to demonstrate that God has not abandoned Israel, or it may serve to glorify David despite the situation the psalm represents. Gerstenberger writes that the scribe who added verse 2 may have considered a possible defeat of Joab's army before the final victory over Edom was won. Tate notes McCarter's opinion that the scribe of verse 2 had a text of 2 Samuel 8:13 that read, "And when he, i.e. David, returned, the son of Zeruiah defeated the Edomites." Since Joab was the best-known son of Zeruiah, rather than Abishai, his brother, who is credited with killing the Edomites in 1 Chronicles 18:12, the scribe identified him as the victor over the Edomites. He also suggested that the variation in numbers is due either to a difference in traditions or to textual error. Zenger, citing Clear, writes that if one takes Le David, to David, as a reference to the author, then the passage reads, "Of David for teaching as instruction when he made war on," etc., and Joab returned and struck Edom. In that case, David, during a time of war, and especially in the moment of victory, gave instruction with and through Psalm 60. The psalm describes a structured act of teaching, recalling an earlier lament over defeat in verses 3 through 7, citing a divine oracle of salvation in verses 8 through 11, which affirms God's rule over enemy nations, and returning to the present with a petition for help in battle in verse 11. Since the superscription reports victory over Edom, the psalm represents the fulfillment of the oracle in David's time, which teaches later post-Davidic worshippers, quote, can reactualize the old divine promise in time of need and assure themselves of divine help, end quote, according to Clear. And Tate comments, quote, the title most probably reflects the long animosity between Edom and the Israelites, which was exacerbated by the cooperation of the Edomites with the Babylonians in the destruction of Jerusalem in 587 BCE. Psalms 1-7 indicates that the Edomites exploited the misfortunes of Jerusalem. Thus, two exilic and post-exilic interests converged, that of David and his exploits and the condemnation of Edom. It is quite probable that Psalm 60 was composed as an ad hoc prayer which arose out of meditation on David during the terrible times after the fall of Jerusalem and out of the deep resentment of what was perceived to be a betrayal by the Edomites, who, quote, should not have rejoiced over the people of Judah in the day of their ruin, end quote, Obadiah 12, and who also participated in the looting of Jerusalem, according to Obadiah 13, and in cutting off the escape of fugitives, according to Obadiah 14.
Well, it'd be kind of, I don't know, it'd be a little weird if it was post hoc because the, like in the verse, where was it? Verse 10, have you not rejected us, O God? You do not go out, O God, with your armies. Like this definitely seems like it is in the midst of a conflict, because saying that God doesn't go out with the armies is a huge statement to basically say we're losing.
Yeah, and they cry that God has abandoned them, but they also need to state at the end that they still have faith in God, because, you know, otherwise he'll be mad and he won't come help them, which he's doing such a fantastic job of. Seriously, why didn't the Jews pick a different God? He sucks.
Yeah, Dagon seems cooler.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Dagon. Oh, you know what? Moloch. those seem way better.
You're pissing Chrissy off.
Yeah, I know.
Who's the one that actually like the other guy prayed to him and then sacrificed his son on the wall and won the fight against Yahweh. Oh, Kamosh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kamosh. Well, I'm not a fan of the human sacrifice, but at least he did shit.
Well, the son is real.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
Helps
Isaac,
the
is it your turn
credibility
yet?
when you can see it.
Yeah, it's my turn, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, cool. Peter posted the link to the Discord, so there we go. Behold. the link.
Behold!
Behold!
No, I posted the other one twice.
I don't know any other one. That's the only one.
Which one?
The
Is
one
he-
true Discord.
The Behold Network Discord.
I know normally we kind of ignore like trollish comments, but there is one maybe Aaron you might want to read. It's just because it's funny.
The guy
Is
who
it
called me an
stupid?
asshole?
Change his phone.
Nah.
Anyway.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, that one.
I somehow closed the chats and
Well,
won't
to
open
be
again.
fair, if they called you an asshole, they have a point.
Yeah, I laughed about it.
Yeah, my next door neighbor did that to me. He got up trying to be all intimidating
So
to
just copy
accuse me of
paste
being
it.
an asshole. So I touched my nose to his nose and yelled into his face that I am an asshole, and he backed down.
Hmm.
They moved.
It's almost like bully chicken shit.
This guy says he would forget me in 30 seconds, yet he keeps replying to me even after a minute. So I don't know.
Okay, so let's see. Is it the Alira?
That one's first.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so we've got 50 R and Raw gift memberships, and then another 50 R and Raw gift memberships. So I'm glad that Peter says it's 150 now. So thank you for keeping
Yep.
tabs. And then we have Jay. I wish people could spell.
I think it's short for tapeworm.
tape worm.
No,
TL8PE.
I don't know. Probably just the,
Okay,
the
that's-
ID.
You are 100% pure asshole.
Peter, talking to you.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Why would I care about people's attention on here? I mean, who the hell are you? An irrelevant piece of trash that I will forget about in 30 seconds or less. Grow up.
You know what?
Yeah.
Preach,
Peter,
Jay.
Grow up.
Yeah. Preach.
I
That
I
Peter
intend
guy-
We can tell Peter's girlfriend.
I intend to do so a week from Friday. I will add another year growing up. So there. And we got 50 more
Happy
on
birthday.
Raw memberships by Alira.
So now we're at 200 because I can
Yes.
math.
Oh, cool. That's because you're younger than me, Arn.
See, I do not age. I ascend.
Did Tomer teach you how to math?
Can you imagine being on a chat on YouTube and being that threatened?
This was like 3 minutes after he said he's leaving, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's the
Yeah,
I don't care about
after
you
he
guys. I don't
said
care about
after
you
he
guys.
said
You
he was
need it.
leaving the
Yeah,
second time.
I'm just gonna stay here and tell you how much I don't care about you guys. Yeah.
He left earlier, but
yeah.
people kept replying to him, so he had to come back because, I mean, if he left, no one else would be paying attention to him.
Oh, Tudums.
Just imagine being in the YouTube chat comments and being that emotionally invested. That's
Well,
I mean, I'm emotionally invested in the dialogue about faith, definitely intellectually invested, but like, yeah, it throwing tantrums about how much you don't care doesn't really hit like you mean to.
well, talking of assholes, let's get back to David's Psalms. We got 61
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
leader with instrumental music of David. Hear my cry, O God. Heed my prayer. From the end of the earth I call to you. When my heart is faint, you lead me to a rock that is high above me. For you have been my refuge, a tower of strength against the enemy. Oh, that I might dwell in your tent forever. Take refuge under your protecting wings. Selah. O God, you have heard my vows. Grant the request of those who fear your name. Add days to the days of the king. May his years extend through generations. May he dwell in God's presence forever. Appoint steadfast love to guard him. So I will sing hymns to your name forever, as I fulfill my vows day after day. That's it. I seem to be getting all the short ones lately.
Good for you. No, there wasn't really too much to say on this. It is. I did want to point out though something a bit more clear, and I have argued for it before on the show, and I still do. But the idea that the ark was a statue, that was actually like in the temple. We kind of see an allusion to it here again, because we have in verse 4, let me abide in your tent forever. That's the temple. Find refuge under the shelter of your wings. So under the ark, the wings of the cherubim on the ark. And where was it? Okay, and it's also very interesting in verse 7 there. May he, the king, be enthroned forever before God. So his place in the because we already know that God in a whole bunch of different places has had essentially enthronement scenes. Now, of course, that references an older time. This kind of defeat of the sea, and then he becomes the new kid on the block. And then the king would be in the same way. He'd be enthroned before or in front of God. That's another way to interpret that. So I thought that was kind of interesting, the temple usage for this.
Yeah, I mean, was the house of David would have been, like, as in like the palace of the king or the city of David would have been maybe not in front of the temple, but I guess in front of one of the entrances at least. So, being enthroned in front of the house could have been just talking about, everyone knows where David's house is, or
right, yeah,
king's palace is. Or it could be referring to an actual seat inside the precinct.
Yeah, it would make
a stage for the king to sit on and read.
Right, with like of course the if we're talking about like the actual statue, the way it's described in the other text would have been like, it's in its own special room, right? The Holy of Holies. Like that's where it would have resided. Maybe just outside of that.
Who's a pretty little ghost baby?
It is hard to
Who's
tell.
a pretty little... Oh, look at your pretty parrot. Pretty parrot.
You ever get
Pretty
Christians
parrot.
arguing with you against your idea that the ark was actually a statue?
Yeah, it rarely comes up though. But
has anyone ever said like, but how could it float?
What I don't get right now,
like a litter.
Comment,
that's a different ark.
Yeah, that's funny.
What I don't get from the people that I argue with in comments is that I'm often seeing, and I never see anybody that's arguing in good faith. That just doesn't happen. But what I'm seeing lately is things that are obviously bots. I'm not even talking to a real person. I'm talking to a robot. And the way that I weed them out is I ask them questions that would require original thought. Like one told me, without a God, how can you tell what is good? I said, well, good in what context? Give me an example where I or anyone would have to determine something from good versus bad, good versus evil, good versus inaccurate. Good and just? What are you talking about? Give me an example, and I'll show you how I can determine good, by whatever context you're talking about. A bot cannot answer a question like that because that requires analytical thought. So what I get is insults and deflection to avoid having to think. Why do there exist robots to argue for creationist positions? Admittedly, the robot is created. They are fully within their rights to argue for a creator. But why am
A nominally intelligent designer.
Isn't there like a quote? When the bot looks at the trees, does it see God or just pixels? I don't know.
I think it's as Lilith said, they have to worship a nominally intelligent.
Oh, isn't it "Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep"? Okay, I was
Yeah, "Do Robots Dream of Electric Sheep"? That was the title of a book, but at the same time, yeah, it is remarkable though that those. I'm not entirely sure how many of those are bots, because that script has been going around as long as the internet has been talking about atheism and God. And the fear and instinctive repulsion and the aggression, like before there were bots equipped to pretend to converse with us, that script was still running. And I think it's quite telling that people are programmed to defend in this kind of mindless way that stagnates their critical thought to the point where they can't use it. I'm not saying they're all real people. I'm just saying real people, and we have all observed real people do this.
Yeah, I don't like, conspiratorial thinking, but sometimes, you have to think like who benefits from the certain types of misinformation or bots, who benefits from America having bad education and misinformation going around, who benefits from Brexit in the UK
Oligarchs.
and but that's very localized. Sometimes I think a bit like maybe it's a bit bad to think that way, but sometimes like which countries benefit from targeting the UK, the USA with these sort of right-winged.
Well, I think
schisms.
in more recent times, it's been like, well, I don't really care what it accomplishes as long as it pisses off the side I don't like.
Mm-hmm.
That there are still people who think that Trump is doing a good job just because
I will
he's
shoot
pissing
myself
off the
in the
libs.
foot as long as liberals get blood on them too.
Yeah,
What?
but like MAGA people aren't making bots to defend their position.
Well, in fairness, the technology has now been advanced to the point where they can pretty much just like type in a few prompts. They don't need to be nearly as intelligent to do it anymore because it's all been made easy for them. And I think it's important, while it is a valid point to look at who benefits and who could be driving certain things, we have to remember what evolution is, that there are also emergent properties, that people can just be assholes and then maybe someone takes advantage of an existing dynamic, and that things work for reasons other than the ones they were put in place for. You can have good intentions and put forward what could be a good idea, and it could be used by someone for some other purpose and may actually be more successful in that purpose.
Right. The most successful lie is the one with a kernel of truth. So you're going to use something that really exists. You're going to take an existing schism,
and once it takes on a life of its own,
right,
it's just going to go.
Well.
Interesting thing about artificial intelligence, were it actually intelligence, because way too often it's artificial ignorance, which is what I'm arguing against. Just imagine the advantage of having access to everybody's social media posts, all their public statements on Facebook or Twitter or whatever format, and all of them. So you've seen all of the hundreds of arguments for people saying really stupid shit. and there's the one thing about the many people who know what they're talking about and the idiots who don't know what they're talking about. How do you weed those out? Is it by how many are more, right? Because I've seen the AI result when you do a search for anything on Google. There's always that AI result, and that seems to be powered by how many creationist websites exist to say this stupid lie that it's now telling me is the truth. But if artificial intelligence was real intelligence, wouldn't it also sort through all of these stupid claims to find the fact that refutes the claim? And even if there's only very few of them, there's only 100 people who have expertise in this general topic and tens of thousands who are completely ignorant of it and saying the opposite of. But if you know the fact that refutes the tens of thousands, well, then wouldn't if you were an artificially intelligent entity, wouldn't you source the fact to refute the faith?
You know what? I don't think so, because to an artificial intelligence, a true artificial intelligence, if it existed in computers, there are no facts. You and I exist in the physical world. I am holding a cup. I can provide sensory input that demonstrates that to any number of people if they wish. The computer doesn't have that. They have externally entered data points from the entire internet. So the loudest voice is, from that perspective, the truest, because they are not engaging with physical reality as we are.
So you're saying that
We can
artificial
look.
intelligence treats truth as a democracy, a pure democracy.
A pure democracy, yes, because there is no independent sensors where it can go, oh, okay, this person says there's a wall here. This person says there's not a wall here. Touch is wall. You and I can do that. We can judge between that person's full of shit and that person is not, because
It's
we
how
can
you
check
train.
the independent thing.
Even if it was truly intelligent, I guess you would still have to teach it what is real and what is not. It would
Well,
still be
and
subjective to the person who
because
trained it.
everything is hearsay to the internet, to the internet as if you imagine the internet to be a giant intelligence, everything is hearsay. Everything is coming in from other people's perspectives.
If 100 people,
unless you give it
if 100 people, professors and such, or even just knowledgeable activists like myself, if 100 people put out the definition of evolution, for example, and then you've got 10 million people who say that evolution is one kind of thing giving birth to or changing into another fundamentally different kind of thing, but you have academic institutions and there's only like 10 of them that said that provide what the actual definition is. You're saying that artificial intelligence will ignore the authoritative definition,
yes,
to go with the
unless
ignorant randos.
But unless
it has been trained to give greater weight to academic authority.
Yeah. Which I think Google is pretty good at generally, because it's before even the bots came in and AI generated results. The way it sorts the results was an algorithm that they had developed for a long time that was based on how do we weigh the credibility of a source, what should come up higher up in the search, and so.
But part of that had to do with use. I mean, remember what they did to Santorum?
I think you're all being far too harsh on AI. If there wasn't any AI, you would have never figured out what Red Cross doctors wear.
I'm sure.
Okay. I'm going to go drink myself into unconsciousness now.
Have we even talked about Psalm 61?
Yeah, let's do that.
I don't even know at this point.
It's a very short one.
You didn't you read it?
Yes, let's do 61.
Wait, didn't Isaac read
I already
it
read it.
Yeah, you did.
So is it me?
No, we haven't talked about it.
Okay.
God isn't going to help you, but he just likes to hear you beg. There.
To be fair, I talked about it. So now I think, Tomer, you can have whatever you want, but I definitely said
Yeah,
some
I
stuff
can.
about
I
it.
can. I just lost you when you started talking about AI for some reason. Anyway, Psalm 61 is generally taken to be an individual lament. Zenger takes the psalm to be a two-part prayer of petition, verses 2 through 5, which is 1 through 4, and 6 through 9, which is 5 through 8, in view of enemy threat, that at the same time is thoroughly saturated with statements of trust. Gerstenberger classified it as a congregational psalm of confidence, derived from the pattern of the complaint of the individual, and still used in common worship for the benefit of each member of the congregation, as we've seen Psalms 4, 11, 23, 62, and 131. Krauss wrote that the psalm belongs to the category of prayer songs in which an individual calls to Yahweh. Tate notes that several interpreters assigned the psalm to the period of the pre-exilic monarchy, and even to David when he was forced to flee from Absalom to the other side of the Jordan. For example, Delitzsch, Pervon, Kirkpatrick, and Kisane. Others, however, think of the period of the exile after 597 BCE, when the prayer could have been for Zedekiah in Jerusalem and for Jehoiachin, who as an exile himself received favorable treatment by the Babylonian king, Evil Merodach, according to Barnes. He writes that those who hold to the exilic setting do not think of the king as the speaker, but of an Israelite who prays for the king. Terrian writes that the psalm may be dated tentatively to the time of Hezekiah, who endured a long and grave malady, seen in 2 Kings 21 through 11. Gerstenberger writes that the language and theological horizon point to a temple-oriented language and theological horizon. That the language and theological horizon point to a temple-oriented spiritual community of later days, and the inclusion of intercession for state authorities also may indicate late instead of early origin. The royal petition in verses 7 and 8, which is 6 and 7, has been taken by some scholars, like Gunkel, to be a later addition inserted in the wrong place, quote-unquote. Gerstenberger writes that there is no reason to deny the possibility of an exilic accretion of a royalistic text, quote-unquote, in Psalm 61, along a nostalgic vein. Zenger, however, notes that there is a, quote, fairly broad current in research which defends verses 7 and 8 as an original component of Psalm 61, end quote. He notes that the arguments in this regard run in three directions. 1. A prayer for the king was a standard component of temple worship, since a temple functioned as a royal sanctuary, with some, like Krauss, referring to ancient Near Eastern parallels and adhere to a pre-exilic dating to the psalm. 2. Some take the psalm to be a royal prayer of a king, who in verses 7 and 8, in typical ancient Near Eastern court style, prays for himself in the third person. According to Dahoud and Weber, who took the psalm to be a prayer by Hezekiah when offering a sacrifice of thanksgiving, and verses 7 and 8 functioned as a petition or promise of salvation, probably stemming from a temple official or a prophet. 3. Some view a close connection between verse 6, which is 5, and verses 7 and 8. The latter has the king's blessed and stable rule. The latter has the king's blessed and stable rule, with verse 6 speaking about the fruitfulness of the land. Thus, the role of the king as giver of blessings can be attributed to the pre-exilic kingdom. Zenger, however, concludes that verses 7 and 8 break the coherent context of verses 6 and 9, and so we may regard them as a subsequent interpolation. But this interpolation, however, has not, quote, gotten into the wrong place, end quote, but must be seen and interpreted within the context of the comprehensive redaction that created the so-called Messianic Psalter, Psalms 2 through 89. That's it.
Is that it?
Yes,
All right. Can we do 62?
I think we can.
Yep. Okay, good. All right, let me see. Kick that over. I just wanted to do that one because it's the year I was born.
Aw.
right. Yeah. So, to the leader.
1662.
What?
1662, perhaps.
Oh, fuck it, thee.
That was
To the
me.
leader, according to Jeduthun, a psalm of David. For God alone my soul waits in silence. From him comes my salvation. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress. I shall never be shaken. I am unreasonable. How long will you assail a person? Will you batter a victim, all of you, as you would a leaning wall, a tottering fence? Their only plan is to bring down a person of prominence. They will take pleasure in falsehoods. They bless with their mouths, but inwardly they curse. Selah. For God alone my soul waits in silence, for my hope is from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my fortress, I shall not be shaken. Because we're doing refrains over and over again, because this is a song. On God rests my deliverance and my honor. My mighty rock, my refuge is in God. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Selah. Those of low estate are but a breath. Those of high estate are a delusion. In the balances they go up. They are together lighter than a breath. But no confidence in extortion and no vain hopes on robbery. If riches increase, do not set your heart on them. Once God has spoken, twice have I heard this, that power belongs to God, and steadfast love belongs to you, O Lord, for you repay to all according to their work. And this is the song of how to stoke delusion in your own mind and then reaffirm it in your own mind.
Well, it seems to me that at least in verses 9 through 10, we have some kind of hope for the great role reversal at the end of, well, not even a role reversal, but like essentially some kind of equality at some point where like the poor and rich basically means nothing, or high class and low class basically means nothing in variety of contexts probably, which is why they say in verse 10, if riches increase, do not set your heart on them, because those are the things that are fleeting. They're not gonna hold on to those, and then it ends with God repaying people according to their deeds.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I have my commentary.
The only thing I would say about this psalm is verses what is it, 6 and 7. I don't know if they're used in Christian, like the translation is used, but I think it's very popular in like as a Jewish like prayer and song, more of a like a deep and like almost a meditation. That makes sense. Yeah. Is it 6 and 7 for you, or is it different?
Would you say 6, 7?
Oh my god.
Yes. I guess it's technically not 6
It's
and
5
7.
and
I guess
6.
it's
5 and 6.
5 and 6 in your version. Yeah. Sorry. I wasn't trying to do that.
When it's common in religious traditions to have lots of different songs like this for times of trouble, when you feel you can reach out to God, but you can also express your frustration with the situation. Sometimes it's a matter of self-soothing, maintaining hope that something better will come. It's human. But as someone who has trusted in God, don't, not in any practical sense. If it makes you feel better inside, sure, whatever. But practically speaking, don't wait on God.
Yeah.
He's not coming.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite bit is, be quiet. Wait for God.
Yeah.
And shut up.
Well, I mean, Lawrence had the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they've been, the end is nigh. We got to save people. They've been doing it for over 100 years.
Oh my fucking god! Not only that shit. They were like, oh well, the Bible prophesied about this time, right? It's the end times. I'm like, but people have been saying that for 2,000 years. Basically, as soon as it got started, they were already saying, "Oh, well, it must be the end times," and they kept saying it. So, like, I have a whole bunch of good reasons to go. Maybe this is maybe this is bullshit. Just
Okay,
maybe.
I realize you guys may not have read this book or even be familiar with it, but there was a dating book in the late 90s, early 2000s called He's Just Not That Into You. Because one of the writers from Sex and the City gave women dating, he's just not that into you. If he ghosts you, if he doesn't follow up, if he doesn't call you and text you, if he doesn't put in the effort, he's just not that into you. Christians, Jesus, it's been 2 millennia. He's not coming. I'm sorry. He's just not that into you. Okay. Maybe you can hook up with Krishna or something. I don't know. Go date. Go just whatever you want to do. Crystals. I don't give a fuck. He's not coming. It's over.
You're still sitting there munching on the breadsticks 2,000 years later.
Yeah, the restaurant is going to throw you out.
The amateur conversationalist 71 says, totally tongue-in-cheek, but will Aaron be volunteering in Texas to hang 10 commandments in schools?
That'd be pretty funny.
If it's the set from Exodus 34, that would be funny. I would hang those.
Orange, you could make
The
your
only
own.
time the Bible describes the 10 commandments, it's Exodus 34, where you will keep the feast of the leavened bread and keep the feast of the weeks and don't boil a baby goat in its own mother's milk.
Which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen, actually, I don't even know if Arn, if you've seen the video. I made it a while ago with the passing of the law to hang up the 10 Commandments in Texas, where I went over like some of the proposed emendations of that law and how like some of them included like, okay, well, if you're going to include that here, let's pull up let's put up the 5 pillars of Islam. Let's put up the tenets of these other religions. And shockingly, every single one of those didn't go through. Weird how that works. So I did a whole video on that, and that was fun. I also talk about like the different sets of 10 commandments and how they only really care about one of them.
For a far better set of 10 commandments, go on to TikTok if you can and look up Mama Jean and the Church of Fuckery. There are 10 commandments of the Church of Fuckery. You should follow them.
All right. So are we going to press on and do 63?
I haven't done my commentary yet.
Okay. I'll take that as a no.
Okay, so Psalm 62 is taken by many scholars to be a personal prayer of trust, according to Gunkel, Mowinckel, Anderson, Tate, and Mays. Gerstenberger writes, however, that the psalm's structure, language, and rhetorical features indicate that the psalm is an address to a congregation, functioning as a homily rather than a private prayer. In Psalm 62, the speaker publicly affirms loyalty to God and admonishes and instructs the congregation with authority, presenting himself as a divinely sanctioned figure. He writes that this resembles biblical preaching, like Joshua's address in Joshua 24, 14, and 15, or prophetic self-declarations, seen in Micah 7:7, Habakkuk 2:1, Isaiah 49, 1-3, 15, 4-9. He thus concludes that Psalm 62 was delivered by a congregational speaker of exilic post-exilic times. Tate, however, writes that any attempt to assign a specific date for this psalm is hardly worth the effort to discuss. He argues that the scribes who provided this superscription either found the psalm in the Davidic tradition or put it there, no doubt thinking it suitable for the speaker to be David. He writes, however, that this conclusion is not a substantial basis for dating the psalm, and it may very well be post-exilic. Zenger writes that the powerful saturation of the psalm with wisdom motifs and the social location that is visible in verse 11, the possibility of oppressing others or acquiring riches, suggest that we should derive the psalm from the milieu of the wisdom schools. He notes that the description of the situation in verse 5 also presumes a milieu in which the speaker of the psalm lives in apparent peace with his enemies. However, the latter appear to have enough power and influence to make his life difficult overall. He writes that, in terms of theological history, an exilic date is certainly possible. Terrien suggested that the poem may be dated to the time of early post-exilic Judaism, when the Second Temple favored a coalescence of covenantal fidelity, moral expectation, and practical wisdom. He writes that its constitutive elements may well be post-exilic, like those of the other prayer songs of the Jeduthun Guild. That's it.
Okay. Do we want to go on to 63?
Yeah, last message.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, first.
Illyra the Free sent another 50 RN Raw gift memberships, bringing us to 250 for the day. Thank you very,
Huge.
very much, Illyra.
Is huge. Is the best thing I've ever seen.
Okay, anybody have any closing comments then?
Oh, I thought we were going.
Oh, we are?
63.
Okay. If
Are
we're
we?
doing it, we're doing it.
Oh my god. Okay, fine. This
I mean,
is so boring.
Well, don't worry. I'll. Should I read it
Ham
as
it up.
Trump?
No.
I will vomit on camera. You do not want that. It is not pretty.
Can you do
Okay,
RFK?
So I should. Okay.
I will find a way to stab you from Canada.
Don't threaten me with a good time. Anyways, going on to Psalm 63. A Psalm of David when he was in the wilderness of Judah. Oh God, you are my God. I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My flesh faints for you. My cock is hard for you. As in a dry and weary land where there is no water. So I have looked upon you in the sanctuary, beholding.
Behold!
Behold!
Tomer.
No.
Wow, rude. Beholding your power and glory. Because your steadfast love is better than life, my lips will praise you. So I will bless you as long as I live. I will lift up my hands and call your name. My soul is satisfied as with a rich feast, and my mouth praises you with joyful lips. When I think of you on my bed, ayo, and meditate on you in the watches of the night, for you have been my help, and in the shadow of your wings I sing for joy. My soul clings to you. Your right hand upholds me. But those who seek to destroy my life shall go down into the depths of the earth. They shall be given over to the power of the sword. They shall be prey for jackals. But the king shall rejoice in God. All who swear by him shall exult, for the mouths of liars will be stopped. I do like the sexual undertones in this one. That's fun.
Also,
Barely
a very
even counts as undertones at this point.
Right. Yeah, they
Why
are
is
pretty.
Steve so horny?
By the way, is the like most of verse 2 or 1 for you, and the next verse, are there any, do they come up again in Psalms? Like
Wait, which verse specifically? You were very unspecific about that.
so like if my verse 1 is your heading, so my verse 2 would be your verse 1. So like
Yes.
most of verse 1 and then verse 2 as well. Do those come up in like another psalm as well, like as their own verses?
I mean, I think like I've definitely seen like my soul thirsts for you, flesh faints for you. I've seen that.
Yeah, I search for you, my soul thirsts for you, my body yearns for you. That as I parched and thirsty land and water, I shall behold you in sanctuary and see you, your might and glory. All that together. Does that come up again in Psalms?
Yeah, yeah, I mean, sorry, sorry, it was in Tate.
Well,
He
there
notes that,
was-
like, okay, sorry.
There was something in Psalm
I
143.
guess I could search it.
I
Hey,
stretch out my hands to you, my soul thirsts for you like a parched land, which is similar to this.
Well, if you're hard for God, Lawrence, I can confirm I am indeed dry as a desert for God.
Great. Okay.
Not the opposite.
So we both have a role. But I think I really took interest in verse 2 there. You know, I
Oh,
looked
no.
upon you in the sanctuary, beholding your power and glory. The power, I'm not sure there, but glory is definitely kavod there. So the presence of God being in the temple. So if someone has in fact done this, it does sound like they're, if they were to get into the Holy of Holies, like that was specifically reserved for the high priest, was it not? So, like the highest priesthood. Like it wasn't just like we're normal.
Yeah, and only on special days, and they had to tie something around his big toe in case they had to drag his body out because God got tetchy.
No, yeah. You couldn't actually like look upon his face, even though they say that in Psalms all the fucking time about like, oh, I can't wait to gaze upon your face and all this stuff. But the actual presence of God, his like all shining light and glory, like that's what they're essentially saying that they have experienced, specifically in the temple.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, religious ecstasy is a thing.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so the reason why I asked if those two verses were like somewhere else is because I thought it was its own verse and not like the middle of a verse, because it's one of the most popular, actually it's two very, very popular songs that
Did I say gaze upon your face? I must have misspelled that.
I don't mind. Yeah, there's these two really popular songs that come from the Hubbard movement and then were kind of, I think, spread out. There's actually one that's part Russian as well. Lawrence, maybe you've heard it, or maybe not.
So a Russian psalm?
Well, it starts off with like, so the Hebrew for like I search for you is Samalacha or Tsamalacha in Ashkenazi. So it's like Samalacha nafshi, and then my soul thirsts for you, whatever. And then there's some Russian, and it's like Eti Dorin Marko, что ты едешь на Марко, не купляешь, не продаешь, только робишь сварков. Which probably is like an old style of Russian that
I definitely don't recognize that from
doesn't make
anything.
any sense. Well, I think Dorin Marko is literally like
I don't know if
literally
it's
like
just
an idiot.
I don't know if it's just how you're pronouncing it or something, but
Yeah, probably.
yeah, I could pick out a few of those words, but yeah, I've never heard like that tune. I don't think.
Oh no, yeah, I don't know if it's a Russian tune or if it was or not. Yeah, it's not like a Russian song that was adapted. I think they like, or maybe it is, because I think it means something like, "Hey, you stupid Mark," like Mark the idiot, like T Dorin Marko, like Durak,
Yeah,
but
Durak,
Dorin.
yeah.
I don't know why it's Dorin, but and then it's like, why are you drinking in the pub? Come and dance with us or something. Come and sing with us or something. Whatever. I can send it to you. Maybe you can decipher it.
All right. So,
okay.
Very close to 1 o'clock.
I haven't done the commentary yet.
Speaking about sending, Arn.
Finish that.
Arn, speaking about sending, we're up to 300. So,
Thank you very much. Illyra for the free, 50 RN Raw gift memberships. Thank you. Okay, Tomer.
Okay. Yes. So the exact genre of Psalm 63 is unclear. Tate writes that while the beginning of the psalm may indicate a lament, the affirmative testimony-like statements in verses 4 through 5, 6 through 8, and 9 indicate clearly that this is a psalm of confidence. He writes that the form is that of prayer to God, which expresses assurance and commitment. Krauss takes the psalm to be a prayer song in which an individual prays to Yahweh in the second person. Zenger writes that the psalm is strongly shaped by the intimate relationship between the petitioner and his God, and we can describe the psalm as an individual psalm of confidence. Regarding dating, Zenger writes that the precise dating of the primary psalm is difficult. He notes that the mention of the king in verse 11, which is 12, is not an adequate argument for a late pre-exilic dating, since the king could also mean the Persian king as highest legal authority. Quote, to pray for whom was an obligation even in the second Jerusalem temple, Ezra 6:10 and 7:23, end quote, according to Seybold. He writes, however, that it is possible or even probable that verse 12 is a later expansion, traceable to the reduction of the so-called Messianic Psalter in Psalms 2 through 89, and regarding the king as a figure of the hoped for new kingdom. At the same time, a late pre-exilic dating of the primary psalm cannot be excluded. The inclusion of the psalm in the collection of Psalms 52 through 68 speaks for exilic dating. Gerstenberger writes that the psalm is a communal liturgical prayer, with the structure, vocabulary, imagery, and theology all point to use within a worshiping community. He argues that the I form expresses the experience of the community through an officiant or on behalf of a group of worshippers. He notes that the psalm shows orientation toward the sanctuary, but without an explicit mention of Zion or Jerusalem. This suggests that it may reflect worship outside the Jerusalem temple, possibly in post-exilic community gatherings. Krauss suggested that the psalm could be dated to pre-exilic times, and we can hardly doubt that it belonged to the sanctuary tradition of Jerusalem. Tellien writes that the psalm may be dated to any time during the monarchy, preferably toward the Deuteronomistic outburst produced by the duplicity of King Manasseh that led to the reform of Josiah. And Tate comments, quote, as is true of many psalms, there seems to be no firm foundation for a decisive choice among the opinions about the setting and place. All of the proposals could be true for the setting of the psalm, and all of them could be wrong, because the psalm may be a purely literary work, using traditional ideas and expressions blended together into a unique composition. In the present context of the Psalter, the psalm functions in a Davidic context, which has loosened it from any original cultic setting and made it available for individual worshippers, who could use it to enter into the inner spiritual life of David and make it their own. We could be wise to follow their trail and read the psalm with whatever contextual imagination proves meaningful, being careful to accept the discipline of good exegesis and literary analysis. That's it.
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Tomer. And I'm guessing then that are we doing Wednesday again? Because
Yes,
I have to do Snake Appreciation Day this Saturday.
I think I can.
All right,
Yeah,
so
I suppose that works.
Yeah.
The theme
I have us
then
down
is,
for next Wednesday.
okay. The theme for next Wednesday, a week from today, is Will You Still Need Me? Will You Still Feed Me? On Psalm 64.
Oh, God.
So neediness.
And Lawrence, with nothing else to say,
Yeah, definitely. Nothing else to say. Join the Discord, the Behold
behold!
Behold!
the Behold Network Discord.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Excellent.
that it? Okay.
So let it be written.
So let it be done. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Hasta la bye bye.